I'm here at the US State Department with Douglas Jones, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. Welcome. Thank you for making time for DW so close to the NATO summit.
My pleasure.
So I would like to start in Europe. It might be very well possible that France will soon be led by the right-wing National Rally Party under the leadership of Marine Le Pen. What implications might that have for NATO, and how worried are you?
I think it's important to remember NATO is an alliance of democracies. It's where democratic representatives of all the allies come together. We talk about common security challenges and what we can do together to address them. And so, and NATO has done this for 75 years. So regardless of which government is in power in these NATO countries, the alliance will still be there to provide this crucial forum where all governments can come together and talk about ways we can cooperate to address collective security threats and challenges.
But there are governments with whom you can work more easy and governments with whom work is more difficult.
One of the beauties of NATO is it's a place where we talk about everything. We talk about things we agree on, talk about things we disagree on. It's an open forum, but it's a place also where allies come together because we share common values and we share common interests. And NATO has historically been able to find areas of consensus and areas that it can work together. And so even though those discussions are often difficult, it provides that place where we can have that conversation and we can figure out where we can work together to address the common threats and challenges that we're facing.
Talking about coming together, one main topic will be new cooperations with partners from the Indo-Pacific.
Well, absolutely. This cooperation with partners is going to be a big focus of the summit. Now, we will be meeting with NATO's Indo-Pacific partners, so Japan, South Korea, Australia and New Zealand as part of the summit, but also all NATO's 35 partners are invited to send representatives because NATO, though it's focused on the security of the transatlantic space, deals with a lot of the same challenges that our partners around the world are facing. And this is particularly true with the Indo-Pacific, where allies are increasingly realizing there are real linkages between the security of the Euro-Atlantic space and security of the Indo-Pacific. And our Indo-Pacific partners see the same things. The greatest example is Ukraine, which is the most significant direct threat currently. Russia's aggression against Ukraine, most direct threat to alliance security, and it's being fueled by the support that China is providing to Russia, that the DPRK is providing. And so, and our Indo-Pacific partners have recognized that the outcome of Ukraine will directly impact what happens in the Indo-Pacific as well.
Do you think there is any, or will it be difficult to sign these new agreements, or will this be kind of just happening?
This is primarily a discussion. This is now the third summit in a row where NATO's Indo-Pacific partners are coming to participate at the leader level in the summit. So I think that really speaks to the depth of this relationship that's developing. We're not signing any great agreement here. This is not about NATO moving into the Indo-Pacific or operating in the Indo-Pacific. This is simply about how NATO can cooperate more closely and exchange information and experiences with Indo-Pacific partners.
You of course already mentioned Ukraine. President Zelensky is hoping for a timeline for a full membership. That obviously won't happen, but what can he hope for?
Well, I think this is going to be a major focus of the summit. The United States, all of our allies are standing strongly with Ukraine as it faces Russian aggression. And at this summit, we'll be sending a strong signal of that support. And NATO will be making a series of decisions that will, in really concrete, practical ways, support Ukraine so that it can prevail in its current fight against Russia, and also to implement the reforms it needs to do to become a member of NATO one day. And so allies have agreed Ukraine's future is in NATO, and at this summit we'll be giving them more tools, more assistance to help accelerate their reform progress, and by that really providing a bridge to their eventual membership into the alliance.
I found it interesting that the German General von Sandra just warned that the threat of Russia is growing and stated that not all of Russia's forces are really tied up in Ukraine. Would you agree with that? And do you think NATO should focus more on defending itself, its own allies?
Well, the allies have already agreed that Russia poses the most significant, most direct threat to Allied security. And allies are taking steps to address that. So NATO has significantly increased its own deterrence and defense. It's developed, it has now 8 battle groups on the eastern flank. Allies are stepping up to contribute more and spend more on their own deterrence and defense. So this year, at this summit, there will now be 23 allies that are meeting their commitment to spend 2% of GDP on defense. That's a dramatic increase from just the 3 who were spending 2% in 2019. And so this is a sign of this commitment to defense. At the summit, allies will also be implementing the plans that it's agreed to increase deterrence and defense at the summit. And so that will be one of the major outcomes, is the way in which NATO is in recognizing the threat posed by Russian aggression, is increasing its own deterrence and defense to ensure that NATO can continue to do what it does best, which is protect the 1 billion people in NATO.
Here comes my last question. There are, of course, elections in the United States, and many NATO members really fear that Donald Trump might be re-elected. How easy would it really be for him to withdraw from NATO?
It's not my place to comment on our politics. What I can say is that, coming out of this summit, I think we're seeing a NATO at 75 that's really stronger than it's ever been before. It's more united than it's ever been before, and is really more important than it's ever been before to Euro-Atlantic security, and also continues to be a cornerstone for United States security as well.
Deputy Assistant Secretary, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.